But Saul has got a heart for project management and a heart for the academic community, and he flew in from Pennsylvania to be with us today to share some thoughts about the project, but also about the academic relationship. So Saul Spivack, PMI.
Thank you very much. I know that it's late, and I know many of you have worked very hard for a very long time. And I wanted to really depart from what I was planning on doing and just be able to give you more of a feel as to what PMI is doing in terms of academia and our particular perspective on undergraduate education. And I can show you a few slides if you're really interested in it, and it's as exciting as you might think it, but I'll give you one or two because it illustrates a point. But first I wanted to just say to you that my being here is really an expression of our relationship with the chapter and with the whole project, because some of you who might have been here last year would have seen William Moylan, Dr. Moylan speak as a keynote, and he's on the PMI board as well as being an esteemed faculty member. And I've worked with him very closely over the years. And another member of my academic relations team was here last year, Kate Duncan. And so I've gotten to know this event through the lens of a number of different people and working directly with the chapter. And we are helping put together a manual, so to speak, that profiles this as a model for other chapters to consider in developing their own events. And so that's what everyone was talking about. So that just sort of gives you a background, because normally this type of thing is so unique, and a lot of times people globally don't even hear about it. And it's been our real pleasure and personal reward to be able to find out, understand it, help document it, and expose others, members of PMI, to this type of a situation. Because essentially everybody works, very few people work alone or have a solo consultancy. Most people work in organizations. And so this is really a natural expression of how the world works. But more importantly, I wanted to give you, or less importantly, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background about what we do, and my teams do at PMI. But then I wanted just to express give you a few thoughts about our perceptions on undergraduates and the importance of project management in undergraduate education, without boring a lot of the people in the audience. But I have multiple roles I play at PMI. My job is to expand the teaching of project management all over the world, convince those institutions that aren't to start, and help those institutions that are teaching expand their teaching, regardless of the disciplines they choose to teach it in. And we also have a very close connection to faculty all over the world because we're sort of stewards of the academic enterprises within our limited roles and limited context. So that puts us in touch with a lot of faculty, a lot of deans, assistant deans, academic management all over the world, different educational systems. And one of the other functions or imperatives that we've taken upon ourselves is really to connect faculty and students to project management as a career. And on an undergraduate basis, that's a little different. As some of you know, at least some of the professionals in the field know, is that up until relatively recently, and including now, project management was really a graduate, and still is really a graduate enterprise in terms of education. People go back to school after they've worked for a while and realize that they want to accumulate this knowledge and develop this specialty further. Some people fall into it and they're called accidental project managers because all of a sudden in their organization, here you go. But in actuality, project management is really a knowledge, a skill set, and a way of looking at temporary types of enterprises in an organization. And as we looked at this and been thinking about it, we've really come to appreciate through our own experience with situations like this, that one of the critical things that we need to do with universities is help them, sell them on the idea, or help them see others who are doing it on undergraduate project management education. And we've taken a very significant step forward in that in a number of ways. First of all, what we've done is reach out to undergraduate students who, again, understanding that project management's a skill. Most people who are going to college are busy going to college and don't really realize what this could mean. But yet the work world has become, as we call it, and it's not a proper word, but we still use it, projectized. Most organizations and if I have time to bore you, I'll show you a slide or two, but about 40% of the US economy now is in essentially projectized industry sectors, and that will be increasing. And that's because of a number of factors, which all of you probably know well, but it's going to what's going to confront someone who graduates with a bachelor's degree as soon as they step into the workplace. And one of the interesting little anecdotes that I always thought funny and really illustrates this, it's not funny, ha-ha, but it's funny to an academic, is that the ex-chairperson of the Global Accreditation Center for Project Management, which accredits academic programs and project management. It's a specialized accreditation body that my team supports. The ex-chairman of it is a civil engineer and an architect. And he was chairperson of this and helped start the body. He's probably been doing it for about 8 years. He's been an educator. Before that, he was a practitioner, but he's been an educator for probably 20 years. He is chair of the Project Management Center for Excellence at the University of Maryland within the Civil Engineering Department. So he tells the story that one day his dean, and this is the dean of all the engineering school, a very sizable school with about 12 to 14 different subdisciplines of engineering within it, called him into his office and he said, "John, I'd like you to consider beginning to teach an undergraduate project management course." And he was certainly of the opinion that this was really an unsuitable thing to teach undergraduates. But you know, when your boss says, the general says, you say, okay. But he really didn't feel this was going to be very successful. Well, long story short, at this point in time, his academic program essentially provides project management to 14 different disciplines within the engineering school as declared minors. Students are coming from outside the engineering school within the University of Maryland wanting to take essentially an engineering-oriented project management course because they've heard about it. It's business students and students from the arts and sciences school. And he had a visit from an employer who's from the construction industry, came to see him and to talk to him a little bit more. And essentially, this was about 6 months ago, and it was a pretty sizable company. And the man said to John, "Well, you know, I want to talk to you about your students." And John's thinking, uh-oh, there's graduates. But long story short, the man asked him and told him that we'd like to double the number that we hire from your program. Because what we found is that your students that come out with a civil engineering degree and 2 to 3 courses in project management essentially hit the ground running in our organization, whereas other students that don't have a project management, any project management education undergraduate, take about 8 to 10 months to really train up and for us to be able to get them ready to really work in our organization. But your students hit the ground running, so to speak, and that's very significant from our standpoint. So would you please talk to your dean and tell him that we really would like to double the number of students we hire, and I believe that the number that they currently were able to hire was something on the order of 20 a year. So I think this is very telling, and this is from a man who's now a big advocate, who reflects the fact that prior to this, and in many institutions, it's really a graduate enterprise. But going back to what it means for you guys who are graduating, you're the converted. But imagine a number of you really hadn't thought much about it until somehow this interesting project found its way to you. Some of you may have thought long and hard about it and seized on this opportunity because you saw yourself working on project management. But basically, from our standpoint, whether we sort of expose you or link you to a project management knowledge, skills that will stand you well in the workplace so that you can and that are almost independent of whatever work setting you choose to work in, will stand you well as you rise up and you begin to develop your management competencies. Project management in organizations now is continuing to grow, both with the small p in terms of people who have project management skills and use them successfully, and a large P, people who decide that my career is project management and I would like to advance my studies in that. So I just wanted to be able to share that with you and to be able to explain to you that your experience here, and I believe all of you probably feel it, will stand you in good stead in ways that you probably haven't even thought concretely about until you actually enter the workplace and start working and impressing the people that you work with. As I said before, I have lots of slides here, but this presentation I won't bother with right now, but one of the things that it's tailored to do is to essentially convince faculty and management of the fact that the world, in this particular presentation, the U.S. is becoming heavily projectized. The occupations that are project-oriented, whether they utilize project management skills or require credentialed project managers, are increasing radically. The growth over the past 20 years has exceeded the growth of non-project management jobs. Project management oriented occupations are compensated much more highly than non-project management careers. And the projectized, so to speak, sectors are the growth areas of the economy as opposed to others. So there's increasing demand, increasing monetary reward for having those types of skills and knowledge. But more importantly, and I think of concern to all of us, is that there's a tremendous gap in the availability of people with project management skills and the need for them. And the need for project management skills is not something of low consequence. For those people who, for the lack of having a project manager, you're going to put significant capital projects at risk because there's no one with competency to manage them. And we've articulated the concept and quantified it, and we call it a skills gap, which you hear in a lot of professions. There's a very significant skills gap between the number of project managers that will be available at any point in time and the number that are needed. And one of the things that is especially important for people coming out of school with an undergraduate degree is that there's essentially two ways this skills gap comes to be. One, people, baby boomers, so to speak, people are retiring who were project managers are retiring. Secondly, there's new jobs that aren't produced from attrition but are brand new jobs requiring project management skills. So there's two pieces to this skills gap. One piece are the old guys and old women, so to speak, who are retiring like me. And the other one is new positions that didn't exist before. What we're finding and what we hypothesize and what we believe is that the attrition, the people who are retiring, those jobs will get replaced clearly by people in the organization. They'll be socialized and trained into those jobs. And so they'll sort of replace some of those retirement jobs. But the new jobs, there aren't enough new graduates to fill these new jobs. These are the types of jobs that undergraduates with the right kinds of skills walk into, and they need project management knowledge to be able to perform in these jobs, whether the employer knows it or not, whether the student knows it or not. And that's the incredible opportunity. These types of jobs, the new jobs, the skills gap, If you took an average for the United States alone over the course of the next 10 years, there'd be 340,000 jobs a year that need to be filled with someone with project management skills and or a credential. That's a very large number in the US alone on an annualized basis, and it's concentrated in some of the biggest sectors, biggest growth sectors of the economy. So again, the future looks bright. All of you have a head start, whether you appreciate it or not. And those of you who are carrying the torch, so to speak, and fighting the cause to try and convince schools that you interact with to teach project management, we have some material for you that might help you. We're delighted to be able to reach out to you and work with you so that you can do that. But it's not an issue of small consequence, because not having an individual with the right skills, there's a shortage of project managers in the future. It may not be as exciting or tangible to people as a shortage of doctors, but it has very significant negative consequences in a lot of levels. And you're sitting in an area with a lot of industries and a lot of organizations and government bodies that need project managers and will suffer for the lack of them. So it's very personally gratifying to myself and my team, and I'm sure speaking for the Western Michigan PMI chapter members, to see you sitting here in the audience. So with that, I will leave you. Good luck to you all. You have an excellent future. And for the rest of us who are trying to help create a love or an appreciation, at least, of project management in students, we're here to help support you do that. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Saul. Yeah, I believe that concludes our evening, Deb. And I want to thank all the teams again for participating today and for all the hard work you put into it. And I'll especially recognize the Michigan Tech team for coming all the way from the UP to join us. We appreciate that extra effort. And I'd like to once again congratulate the team from Grand Valley State University for winning the event tonight. So, thank you all for coming, and have a safe travels home.